Let's go.
What's
What's good?
up?
Yeah,
About
my
time at
bad.
work.
I hit request like
You're good.
70
I don't
times.
know.
Oh, he said I got
Fred
dial
said you
up.
got dial up.
Man,
Disrespectful.
what's good? How you doing today?
All right, so I'm chilling, man. You know, new day, new me.
I
Trying
like
to
that.
take a little breather from all the chaos. I've been chilling,
Yeah.
not doing anything too much, just trying to
You've been off of
organize,
Instagram
the
too.
usual. Yep, I deleted the app. I still been checking, but I deleted the app, so I'm not
You're
just
too famous for us,
scrolling
that's
on
why.
there. You know, that goes. No,
Okay.
I'm not
Yeah,
famous, man. Not at all. I wish.
yeah.
I wish.
Okay.
No, but I appreciate you
Yeah,
doing
of
this for
course.
us. For those who don't know, I, along with a couple other creatives, have created Flickz, which ultimately the goal of that is to provide exposure and kind of just tell the story and give us kind of a voice in the basketball world. So if you don't follow Flickz, you haven't seen the account, check it out. I think it's pretty dope. It's just a collaborative effort for me along with some other folks that are actually in here right now, just trying to, show love to other creatives. So if this isn't a quarantine thing, this is definitely something we've been planning, but because we shoot all the time and it's super chaotic, like we just honestly don't get the time to do it. So again, I appreciate you doing it, especially right now, because I think this is going to kickstart us being able to consistently do it. Um, I had people submit questions, so we got a ton of questions. I put them in three categories. So basically, it's learning about you, kind of tips and advice for people, and then kind of wrapping up with additional questions. Bree, yes, we definitely have hoodies. I will shoot you a link once we're done. But yeah, Jay, if you want to kind of, I know who
Yeah.
you are, but if you want to kind of introduce yourself, and then while you're doing that, I guess the first question is like, what made you pursue basketball
Yeah, for
photography in
sure.
general?
So
So.
for people who don't know me, I'm Jordan Jimenez, J squared, whatever you want to call me. I'm a 22-year-old sports photographer, or again, whatever you want to call me. Like I shoot sports mostly, but I can shoot basically anything. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean nothing too crazy about me. I started photography when I was in high school. I was a senior. I wasn't really playing
Mm-hmm.
basketball anymore. I got hurt my sophomore year, and so I hurt my head,
Mm-hmm.
neck, and back while I was training for track for whatever reason. Yeah, for whatever
Really?
reason. So I was a long jumper,
Yeah.
and I was doing box jumps,
Mm-hmm.
fell backwards, hurt myself, so I was out, and then it was just like kind of hard to get back mentally. So by the by the time
Yeah.
senior year came around, I decided like, all right, I need to do something with myself. So picked up a camera.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, it was just street photography stuff, really, just like walking around the city, getting on rooftops and stuff with my
Yeah.
friends in San Francisco. So, that's where it all started. And then eventually just kind of like started
Mm-hmm.
getting booked for like prom gigs. Um, just like what I
Yeah.
got booked for a couple weddings and all that. But, you know, nothing too crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was literally just me picking up a camera. Needed some sort of outlet other than basketball since I wasn't playing anymore. And then it just kind of took off from there. And then now I'm about 4
Yeah.
years into photography. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what actually like I guess what sparked the journey for basketball specifically? Like once you
Right.
kind of got to doing it, like what made you realize, okay, this is what I want to continue to do and I
Right.
want to
So
take
I didn't start
serious.
taking basketball photography seriously until like 2 years deep. Like there was a certain point where I
Mm-hmm.
just kind of realized, okay, I'm passionate about photography, but basketball is also there, and that's been my first love since we can remember. So I just kind of figured like, okay, let's combine that and put the two passions together, and then just started shooting a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I was a manager for the basketball team at USF, so I had access to those games and practices and stuff like that. So I was just shooting whatever, having fun with it, and
Yeah.
then I just sent it out to the
Right.
team, and they would just start posting. So people started to notice a little bit.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. Um, how did you originally find your style? Like, was it something that happened in the beginning? Did you already kind of know like what you like to do based on you shooting other stuff? Because that's honestly like
Yeah.
how I am. The way that I shoot is from what I shot prior to actually getting into basketball. Did you find that in the beginning, or did you kind of grow into
I mean,
that?
I think I still don't really have my own style. Um, I mean, I think I
Yeah.
take a lot of it from those early days of street photography for me. Like I'll combine some of those editing elements in terms of like color and whatever. Um, but yeah, even right now, I don't think I even have my own style. Like I think that's something that you constantly develop and just like keep trying to figure out as you go. And like probably 10 years from now, I still won't
Yeah,
have my own style. So I think it's just a journey that I'm just going to be on for a long time.
yeah, for sure. Another question we got was, what do you think makes your work different from other creatives?
Different from other creative, I mean, me, you know, I have a different perspective on life than I think other people, and as we all do. Like, I'm not saying it in a way where I feel I'm
Yeah.
unique, but it's just like everybody has their own different perspective from the person
Mm-hmm.
next to him. So, yeah, when it comes down to like
Mm-hmm.
what makes my work stand out, it's just me. Like, I shoot things that I like. I'm around the
Right.
people I like, the things I like. So, you know, it's just whatever I feel like doing,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm gonna shoot. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's literally just me.
Right. How do you feel about people who kind of like take your style, take after
Hmm.
your style? Let's say there's something that you do where you're using like lens flares or anything like that, and people
Right.
start doing it. Do you, what's that borderline for you between like complete copying and inspiration, or like how do you overall feel about that topic in general? Because I feel like it's a hot one
Yeah.
in our community, where people are on both sides. They get like super frustrated by it, and then they'll completely like deflate and not do that style anymore. Or, you know, like they're like, hey, like I'm a trendsetter, or hey, like it's cool that people take after what I do. Like, how does that actually
Yeah.
make
I
you feel?
mean, when I started to notice that people were doing stuff that I was doing, at first, like when I first started, it
Yeah,
was kind of upsetting. Like you think you've thought of
yeah,
something so unique, and somebody just decided to easily just take it without necessarily really
mm-hmm.
thinking about it, and you know they're able to do it just as
Mm-hmm.
well as you. But now that
Yeah,
I've been in it for a while, it's kind of like everybody kind of takes something from everybody. Like we might think we came up with like a really cool idea that nobody's ever really done, but
mm-hmm.
somebody's done it. You know,
Yeah,
it just might not be in sports. It could be in
mm-hmm.
like music or food. Like there's just so many different things and so many different
Yeah,
fields. Like
right, exactly. Yeah,
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 so I mean everything's
I feel that.
everything's stolen to a certain extent. So I try not to go
Yeah,
too crazy about it.
you're right
Yeah.
about that. Was there any specific experience or resource that taught you how to navigate the basketball world?
Um, I think what really helped me navigate is just like being around good people. Um, I mean, in terms of
Yeah.
like business, I think I figured it out for the most part myself, just because it's kind of just trial and error. You just kind of do
Mm-hmm.
whatever like you think works in the moment.
Yeah.
But in terms of just like basketball, I've been around basketball. I've been around it since, you know, what, like third grade or whatever. So I've just met so many different
Mm-hmm.
people in the field, and like as I've gotten older, I've just kept those relationships, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, one thing has led to another. Like, for example,
Yeah.
like when I was working within the lab, I met Devin because of
Mm-hmm.
James Chun, who he trained, who went to Reardon, and you know he went to
Yeah.
St. Anne's and
Mm-hmm.
everything here in San Francisco. So it's just people you played against, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's just certain relationships there. Or like with Packy, you know, I know
Yeah.
some of the kids that he trains, and we were able to get connected on Instagram. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, the basketball world is such a small
Yeah.
community. Like it seems big from the outside looking
Mm-hmm.
in, but you know, it's really easy to just
Yeah.
like get in contact with people.
Yeah. I feel like it's not really that tough
It's
to
not. It's
navigate.
not.
You kind of just, like you said, like, you know people, you have people that, like, you know, are working out with a certain trainer. And so if you go shoot, now you have that relationship with the
Right.
trainer. And if you're good at what you do, that consistency kind of keeps coming. If you, like, you know, reach out to someone to go to an event, once you go to that one event, now you know all these people, you've seen
Right.
all these faces, and it's just like a domino effect. I think for me personally, with that question, because I get asked that a lot too, is just being
Yeah.
genuine, you
Just being a
know,
good person.
and your relationships with people. Yeah, just be a good person, because that energy attracts people wanting to work with you. And what I see a lot of times, like in our space, is you have people that really get rewarded for that, and then you get people that come off as like, you know, kind of like
Yeah.
clout chasing. Some people like to put it in a box, or just like being disingenuous and like being there for the wrong reason. And people can sense that on
Yeah.
you. And I've had
Exactly.
conversations with people where they brought up people and they're like, yo, you know, I don't want that person shooting, or I don't want to involve them in my personal stuff that I'm trying to grow, because I don't want that energy. And I think that's the one thing that I can share with people too, is like you said, it's a lot of just who you know and being around, but a lot of it too is just be genuine and be real about the connections that you're trying to build, because people can smell that
Yeah,
stuff a mile
exactly.
away. So,
Like I think that's the most
um,
important thing in terms of like, if you really want to talk about growing your business or like working with athletes, brands, whatever, just be a good person. Like events, the
yeah,
opportunities will come. Just
yeah,
put in the work, be nice to everybody, talk to everybody, smile, every
hmm
now and then. So
yeah.
yeah,
And the big thing too is like connecting with other creatives in the right way, because like a lot of times you'll have people that we all can't do everything, you know, like when people hit me up and I can't do something, like I'll refer the people that I'm really close with, or you know, if I know someone lives here, like I'm gonna say, okay, hit up this person,
right.
that person, and that also creates that same effect too. So I think the next one that kind of transitions into the next question, which is how did you personally build your following?
I mean, I don't really have a big following. I have what, like
Yeah.
8,000 or whatever. I don't think that's that much. But
hmm
I mean, I try to grow it organically. Whether that's like commenting on
hmm
people's stuff, um, sending people
yeah.
nice messages, posting my content, of course. Like I try to post
hmm
at least once a day if I can.
yeah.
But also just like
hmm
the actual real life experience. Like I think people will really mess with you
yeah.
if you're like, again, going back to being a good person. So like anytime I'm in a room or something, and I see people, I try my best to talk. I mean, I'm kind of a
Yeah.
shy person by nature, but I mean it's just something that you have to
hmm
do, and like to get out of your comfort zone. Just talk to people in the
Yeah.
room.
Yeah, for sure. Are there like specific things, like some people are very, like me personally, I'm very into like the look and feel of my Instagram account. So like for a long time I had posts going up every single
Right.
day, but they all were very intentional. Like I didn't post any of my work that I thought was trash.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Anything that like I really wanted to post that didn't fit. Like, do you have that kind of same stuff that you do with your own account?
Right.
Um,
I mean,
Tips and tricks that maybe
yeah,
you can
yeah.
give people to kind
I
of
mean, I
share.
use a preview app. Like if you're talking about the actual post, I just kind of like plug it
Yeah,
into the preview app and just like plan ahead and just make sure like the feed actually looks good as a
yeah.
whole. Because like as much as
hmm
you want the individual post to look good, I think it's important to have your whole page looking good. Like whether that's like posting by
Yeah.
threes or nines or just having the same color scheme and edit, like I feel like that's small details
Yeah.
people actually pay attention to without even really noticing. Like when I look at people's Instagram pages, I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, their feed is laid out nicely. Like I might follow them
hmm
because of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. For sure.
yeah,
I get that. Do you feel pressured to post on social media, whether it be Instagram, Twitter, or whatever you use to post your
I want
content?
to say no, but subconsciously I know I am. Just because like the more I feel like the more I
hmm
don't post, you kind of I don't want to say you become irrelevant, but like people might forget about you
Yeah.
for a little bit just because like there's so much content going out and it's just like there's
hmm
something new every day. So like
Yeah.
if you're not
Yeah.
posting,
Yeah.
people might just forget about you.
People have like really like short term
Yeah,
memory when it
exactly.
comes to like creating and just stuff in general,
Yeah.
content wise. Um, your following right now, do you feel like it's a good balance between creatives and also athletes? Or is it like primarily athletes, or like what's your following like
I
right
feel
now?
like it's a good mix of everything, like regular people, athletes,
Mm,
creatives, I mean, people from
mm,
brands and all that. Like I think they come from everywhere. So
yeah.
even though I said like my
hmm
following's not that much, I know there's like really good quality people in there. Like really good people that I
hmm
really mess with and that, luckily like support me and everything. So, even though I might only have like
Yeah.
8,000 and not like hundreds of thousand or anything like that, it's like
hmm
8,000 good people. What's that here?
How do the two of you go about being compensated for your work when reaching out to events that you weren't necessarily invited to
Oh,
shoot?
shoot. I mean,
That's a good question. I'm gonna bookmark that one. You probably have an answer. I'm gonna bookmark it for
yeah.
myself because
How
I
do
can't
you
really
blah blah blah
process
blah
that.
blah. I mean, I don't
Um,
really if I just show up to an event, I don't really ask to get paid because I mean, most of the time I'm just going
mhm.
for fun. And like, if I just send people
Yeah,
photos, it's just like, okay, I just want to give them something to like remember the event from, or just something nice for the
Yeah.
people. Just I don't have to really charge for everything.
Yeah. I guess I would follow up with that question, and I would just say, is this an event where like I'm already going to it and then someone's like, "Hey, can you shoot this for me?" Or if it's like, "Hey, like last minute someone's hitting you up and saying, "Hey, can you shoot because my shooter backed out or something came up." I guess that
Yeah, no,
kind
if
of
somebody asked me to shoot and
would
like
change the
specifically
big
get them content, I'll probably charge them. But like if I'm just like
yeah.
handing out
Yeah.
content, just because, then I won't. But no, that makes sense. Like if they
Yeah.
ask me, I'll
Yeah.
charge.
Right now, who's your favorite client to work with?
Um, I like Finish Line a lot. I like Under Armour a lot.
Mhm. Mhm.
Adidas hoops. I think that's
Yeah. What is it that you like about working with them? Like, what makes that a
yeah, yeah.
positive
So
experience?
I mean, first of all, they're all good people. I mean, the common theme here for
Yeah.
me is just like I like good people. So I mean, Finish Line, they're all
Mhm.
they're all super chill, all really good people, and they just give me freedom to
Mhm.
create. Like when they send me things to shoot, they just say just have fun with it, do whatever
Yeah.
I want. So it's been cool. And then Under Armour, good people again.
Yeah.
I mean, I just like that they really mess with me. Like when it comes to projects that
Yeah.
are here in the Bay Area, they'll hook me up or like they'll fly me
Mhm.
places. So
Yeah.
and then Adidas hoops is just
Mhm.
like I talk to a lot of those people like every other week or
Mhm.
something like that, just checking in. They always ask me to like send my
Yeah.
work
Just
to
seeing
them
how.
and just keep them updated on like what I'm doing with my life. So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's just like these people care about me, I care about them. So that's why I really like them.
Mhm. Or how did you make the transition from full time
Oh,
or to full time freelance? I guess from maybe
right.
working or
Yeah. I
school or what
mean, the first step
that
for
looked
me
like.
was dropping out of college. I'm not telling people to drop out of college, but that was my first step. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, I was at the
Yeah.
University of San Francisco, went there for about a year and a half, and I just kind of
Mhm.
decided that, I want to do this thing full time. I was making fairly decent money, and nothing to like
Mhm.
now. I thought it was cool at the time, um, but I was just like, okay, I
Yeah.
can make this a full time thing. Dropped out of school, and then
Mhm.
yeah, just kind of figured it out from there, and then eventually moved to LA for
Yeah.
about 9 months within the lab, and then
Mhm.
moved back to the Bay. Been just been going wherever the
Yeah.
opportunity's been.
What was the toughest challenge that you personally felt? And then I could actually share too about like my
Yeah, you mean
experience.
like just challenges as a creative, or
Like, did you have a roadblock? So, like for example, for me, when I made the transition, technically it was like last
right?
July. Um, Johnny, what's up? So for me, I had a job. I was working at Amazon doing like
Hmm.
smart home stuff with corporate. Um, I worked at Apple prior, so I kind of already knew like I was making steps towards doing my own thing and doing a lot of stuff like on the side. Me and Brandon and
Right.
Juan, like we had all been doing stuff. And then I was working at Amazon and was getting a little bit too much on my back. And so like I was on leave for a little bit. And because I was on leave, like I didn't just like sit around
Hmm.
and do nothing. Like I kept, reaching out to prior clients and doing work and like shooting stuff. And then like at some point I was either gonna go back to work or I was gonna completely quit. And I was like, you know what, forget it, I'm gonna quit. And I think for me the hardest roadblock I thought was gonna be financial, but it actually was just mentally like pushing myself to keep going towards
Right.
something, because it's like one of the biggest things I feel is, yeah, it's scary. Like you gotta make money. So sometimes like people really can't just cut it all off. But it's like once you get uncomfortable and you have to find a way to get that income, like you'll pretty much do
Yeah.
anything. Like you'll figure out how much like strength and resilience you have because now you have to. Like you don't really have another option. So like did you have one of those moments once you dropped out of school where it was like, damn, like what am I gonna do for
Right.
money? Or like should I go back to school? Like what was like that
I
biggest
mean, I
challenge for
think the
you?
biggest challenge came when I was living in LA. I mean, one of the big reasons I moved back was because I had $12 in my bank account. So at one point, like, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
facts.
Like one point, I was just like, I tried
Yeah,
Postmates and I made like $13 in like 2 or 3 hours, and so I wasn't trying to do
yeah,
all that. So I mean, I moved back, and then I just
yeah.
started picking up hella work. But I mean, for me, it was
Hmm.
financial for me, just like trying to figure out how I'm actually going to bring clients
Mm-hmm.
in. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
I was working at Apple also, so I was there part
Yeah.
time. Yeah, right.
Crazy.
And I know who else was
Yeah.
Yazoo was there too.
Yeah. Me.
Yeah, so no, I
Yeah.
was at Apple and
I worked
everything.
there.
And just like trying to balance that
Mm-hmm.
time of like, being at Apple and having the time to take on other
Mm-hmm.
gigs. So, it's a balance, just
Yeah.
like trying to actually build the photography business.
So I guess we will transition now into like your advice, and we kind of did talk about a little bit, but
Uh-huh.
about this, how you build a relationship with the people that you like shoot and that you work for. So that can be, I mean, individuals. That can be, like you said, you love working with Adidas Hoops,
Right.
Under Armour, Finish Line. Like, how did you build those relationships and continue to
I
grow
mean, you just
those?
kind of meet the people first. Like you have to start the relationship,
Yes,
you actually have
Kelly.
to meet
We come.
people. Yeah, very cold today. But yeah, I was
Facts. It's
freezing outside. I was
cold.
just like shivering trying to talk, but I'm good now. I'm inside.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, just
Tripping.
building those relationships, just talking to people.
Mhm.
Like for example, my first McDonald's All-American. I was within the lab, and
Mhm.
then so Devin was gonna be there, so he had his room and everything, and then his other
Yeah.
videographer George, he was going as well, and
Mhm.
George decided that it would be a good opportunity for me to go to McDonald's All-American, so he paid for my flight and everything, and
Yeah.
then we just like crashed Devin's couch in
Mhm.
his room and in the hotel.
Yeah. And that was what?
2018.
2018? That wasn't
Yeah,
last year. That was the year
2018.
before, right? Okay.
And then
Yeah.
when I was there,
Mhm.
I mean, I just met all the Adidas people because Devin's, he was training with Adidas
Mhm.
and everything. So I was just talking to the people in the
Yeah.
room, and then eventually,
Mhm.
those relationships just kept going. Like I just text these people every day. Um, Again, like
Yeah.
some of these people are the ones that check on me and everything. So, we just kept that
Mhm.
relationship going, and then I met people at
Mhm.
McDonald's that year in 2018. And then I ended up getting hired for
Yeah.
2019. So it's simple things. It's just like,
Mhm.
again, just like meeting
Yeah.
people and just being a good person.
What's been the biggest challenge throughout your career
Biggest challenge.
so far?
I mean, let's see.
And you might not have faced one yet
Yeah, I
that
don't
you feel
really
like,
think I have
I
necessarily.
mean,
Like to be honest, I feel like
mhm.
I've been pretty lucky. Like I've met a lot of
Mhm.
good people who've been able to give me opportunities, put me in a good
Mhm.
position to win. So yeah, I haven't really had
Yeah.
one. I mean, obviously you have challenges every day in terms of like the mental battle and all that, and just making sure,
Mhm.
like your physical shape, your mental health, everything's all good. And
Yeah.
obviously daily life. But in terms of like my creative path for building my business, I think I've been pretty lucky.
Mhm. It's been
Yeah.
pretty chill so far.
But again,
That's good.
I've only been doing it
I
for
think
like
it's
two and a half, 3 years professionally. So it hasn't been that long.
How do you balance consistently putting out content while staying creative and innovative?
I mean,
That's tough for me.
while you're staying creative and innovative, you're gonna make content. Like it's just part of what we
Hmm.
do, as a photographer, as a videographer, or
Yeah.
whatever. Like you're always creating anyway. So, eventually you're just gonna
Hmm.
figure out new things that you haven't done before, and maybe figure out something that other people haven't done, and that might be considered innovative or creative. So, it's just
Hmm.
part of the process, just going through, getting your reps in.
Yeah. I think for me, the thing that keeps me, I guess, innovative would be kind of what we talked about before is like we didn't start shooting basketball photography or basketball
Right.
video content. So for me, I'm someone, and this is like a pro tip, or I guess like my tidbit from myself that's personal is I like shooting music videos and I like other, street photography and different things like that. So I'll take stuff from that kind of style and find out how I can incorporate that into like my editing. And so like we follow a ton of travel
Yeah,
photographers,
yeah,
me, Brandon, and Juwan, and like I came across like when I did kind of like the invisible athlete
yeah.
kind of
That one
thing
was
with the
crazy.
jersey.
That's
Um,
one of my favorite pieces.
like I just kind of seen that because you see that stuff all the time with people that are using Photoshop and doing different cool stuff with travel, and they'll put like a train, like the train tracks will go through the camera lens and
Right.
stuff like that, and trying to figure out how to cool way to incorporate that into basketball. And I didn't like plan to do it, but it was just something where I was like, let me test this out and see if this will work. And then kind of post it and kind of see how people
Right.
like feed off of that. For me, that's kind of how I become innovative. It's like just trying to find different ways to add other techniques into what we do. But sometimes I have that same block where it's like, what else
Right.
can I do without like over exhausting myself? Where it's like, that's just like
Yeah,
super
yeah.
corny.
I feel that.
Like I always get
And I
stuck
think
with,
that's where it's good to
yeah.
like
So
dive into other fields. Like for me, I try to look
yeah,
at pictures of food,
100%.
sneakers, music, cars, just like the most
Hmm.
random things that don't necessarily
Yeah.
seem related to basketball and photography, but like, there's
Hmm.
photographers in all these fields and they're doing really cool stuff. So,
Yeah.
I take inspiration
Yeah.
from all that and just like watching movies, watching TV shows, cartoons.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just watch movies in silence.
You
That's
don't watch
another
it with
pro
sound?
tip for anybody that does for anybody that does video. And I've kind of studied like film and stuff like that. You definitely want to watch movies and videos and edits and anything that you can that's visual in silence. So one, your mind isn't like, especially stuff that has like talking over it, you're tricked. Like you're watching, but at the same time you're being distracted by
That's
someone
true.
talking or the music that's playing in the background of an edit. So actually watch it in silence to try to really narrow down and see what's happening, see where people are framing the shot and stuff like that. That's something else that I do when I feel like I'm kind of like just in a lull of like
Right.
being stuck with the creativity. It's just like challenging myself to watch something like really dope. Like recently I watched The
Yeah.
Joker,
Great movie.
the whole movie in like silence. And I was just like, wow, like the cinematography on this is crazy. And like trying to figure out how I can incorporate that
Damn.
into my
How'd you
work.
feel watching that without
Um,
sound?
it was crazy. Because the story was the same
Exactly. That's
without the
why I
sound.
asked.
It was the
Yeah.
same, bro. It was like the same. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like it goes
Let me see
both
how
ways
this.
though. Like if you watched it with sound or without the visuals and just like listen to it,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And that's like
Yep.
what great work
Yep.
is, I
Yep.
feel
I've
like.
been trying to get into like exactly getting into like the sound and getting into sound design and adding that into video. I think that's another big way kind of to be innovative is like right now in the basketball space there's not a lot of people that do that where they're adding like really
Right.
good sound design. Like someone that does it really well right now is I think Cam
Oh,
Bev, like adding
incredible,
the
bro.
different sounds and
Yeah.
stuff like that to the video and really understanding like how to use that. Also Steven's like really good at that too. So we've been working on that and just finding new ways to
Exactly.
level up in a way that works for you. Because a lot of times when you try to take that stuff, sometimes you get so sucked into what someone else is doing. It's like pay attention to it and how can you incorporate it into what you
What's this?
currently do. I was speaking on gaining access to professional level games tournaments put on to host elite high school players. Who do you guys reach out to not only shoot but to be paid? Um, I guess to circle back to that question, I guess it really depends on what that looks like. Um, I think it's different for everybody. Typically, when I've gone to anything that's considered like elite high school or something like that, and I've gotten paid, that was kind of set up
Hmm.
prior. I don't typically just now that I'm kind of like doing it full time. I don't typically just show up anywhere unless I'm going genuinely to just do it
Right.
because I want to. So I think what you can do, something you could do, you can always reach out to like the event host and find out if they need extra help, especially right now. Content is key. And so a lot of people are, reaching out to people to get content and they may be so caught up in running and hosting the event that they hadn't even thought about it. So sometimes you can also pitch yourself, hey, I know that you have this going on. I notice your social media is
Hmm.
kind of crappy, or you don't really have a buzz. You don't really have video content. Whatever it is that you feel like they need, and present that in like a professional way, and show them your work. And that's a way to get in. Another way to get in is with like the athlete. Like these kids nowadays, they want to have a mix or they want to have photos. A lot of times you can, talk to some of the players and ask them if they want content and they can throw you a little cash. I know something that a lot of other photographers are doing is like setting up like booths at events and stuff like that, or set up like a little table, or sometimes you can partner with like the event host and you can put up like a little flyer and just say, I do photos for this and blah, blah, blah. So you just kind of got to be creative. It's, to me, like I'm not super invasive like that. Like to be like,
Right.
hey, pay me. I don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable doing that. So I kind of like, if it's not already set up, I don't just pull up expecting to get paid somehow.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like it just is what it is.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
you know more on that side than I do. You shot way more events than I have.
Yeah, like high
Exactly.
school
Exactly.
stuff. I think professional level, if we're talking like G League, NBA stuff like that, I think that's a lot
Oh
harder.
yeah, way harder.
Um, I mean, for me, I don't really. I've shot in a couple games, but the games that I've shot them for myself. I haven't shot them with the intention to get paid. So that would probably be a better question for someone who does that personally. I mean, when I do NBA stuff, I'm doing it
Yeah.
because I want to. Like, I'm not doing it to get a check. I just want to be in that atmosphere. I love shooting in like an arena. So for me, it's just like more about the vibe than it is about the pay. But it's kind of the same
Hmm.
thing. Like if you reach out to a player and they need some content, which a lot of players are taking that kind of ownership now, 9 times out of 10 they'll pay you. And if they don't, then you have to figure out, whether it's worth you
Right.
doing it or not. And are you going to get enough exposure from it? Are you doing it because you love it? You kind of have to figure that out for yourself. And like I said, every demographic and market is different too. We're on the West Coast, so you're probably going to get paid a lot more doing brand stuff, um, and probably more like event stuff than you will like going to an
Yeah.
NBA game and like getting someone to pay you. Like it's pretty tough,
Yeah.
I think. I could be wrong, but from my experience, it's not like
Yeah. To
super
answer
easy.
your question, like the way that I've gotten into NBA games and all that, is just I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's just I've met the right people. Yeah, relationships.
Relationship,
Like if
bro.
you guys take away anything from this,
Relationships.
it's just like be a good person and talk to everybody. But that's literally how I've been able to shoot NBA games. Like I met some people, let's say from the Warriors. Like I met some of the producers, and
Hmm.
they asked me to come help with some projects, and it was as simple as that. It's just because like I met them at an event
Hmm.
and I introduced myself, and eventually they just kept me in mind.
What wisdom do you have
Like,
for someone in freelance seeking to enter spaces, McDonald's, Jordan Brand, etc.? I think one thing that is a huge eye opener for me, actually having shot both actually for like Jordan Brand classic stuff, and then also like just actually being there, is the reality is a lot of times people get so frustrated because their credential doesn't get approved and this, that, and the third, and 100% it's really not personal. It's a little bit of both. Like you have to know someone somehow to get in. But the other side of it is like these events have limited space.
true.
So although we want to be nice and give everyone that's dope a credential, we can't. We only have so much space on the floor to allow people to come in to shoot. And so most of the time they prioritize people that are linked with brands. So for me personally, being able to shoot McDonald's, Jordan Brand Classic, stuff like that, it's been because of my relationships with media outlets that I've had. So like being able to go to Jordan Brand, I did it for BR. So that was something that was like a little bit easier for me to do. I When I've shot those events, I've rarely seen people just kind of in there
Yeah.
for themselves. Most of those people have a stake in the game somehow, or they're shooting for like an outlet or a brand. Like you can, one of my guys, he shoots for the Lakers and the Clippers, and he got that off of shooting from like a newspaper. So like he kind of got like a back end credential. So there's ways that you can do it, but typically when you're going like higher the level, they're looking for people that really have some type of stake, whether it's like with a media company or you got like a magazine or something like that. So if you have those type of connections, sometimes they're willing to like look out for you. I don't know what your
Yeah.
experience has been, but for me, it's
Yeah.
usually
I
been
mean,
to
as
look
a
out for me.
freelancer, like it's hard. It's very hard. Like as Janine was saying, like you just want to make sure you have like some sort of outlet to help you out, or just like an outlet to shoot for. I've been able to shoot like individually as
Mm-hmm.
a freelancer for some of these games, but it's been because like
Mm-hmm.
maybe a player helped me out, or some like one of the
Mm-hmm.
producers from one of these companies helped me out. So even if I went to
Mm-hmm.
shoot at those events for myself, it's because I had a little bit of help. Yeah,
Yeah,
freelancing,
yeah,
it's a
exactly.
tough thing to do.
How do you feel about people coming in for
Whew,
the money versus people who come in
man.
because they're passionate about it? I think this is for you because personally, I'm still fresh, so I can't
Yeah, I
speak on
mean,
it.
It's it's kind of weak when
I mean, we're
yeah,
both
yeah,
kind of fresh.
exactly. I've only been doing it for so long. But I think it's kind of weak when people just come
Yeah.
in for the money. I mean, I understand it's gonna happen just because, photographers are blowing up a little bit more and just creatives in general.
Hmm.
But it sucks when it's just like they're just coming in for the money. Like I'd rather be around the people who actually come in wanting to get better and, wanting to tell genuine stories and, actually caring
Yeah.
about the craft instead of just like money because, money in the world is just like
Yeah.
whatever.
I think that's with any
Yeah,
business
exactly.
though. Like when you're doing anything for money and that's the reason, it's always like, you know, like I'm not knocking
Yeah,
it. Like
exactly.
do
Like
what you
make your
gotta
money.
do. Like everybody's trying to pay their bills, become successful financially, earn some type of wealth. But it's the same thing with companies, it's the same thing with brands and stuff. Like if you do it for the right driving factor, then all of that extra stuff will
Exactly.
come with it. And honestly, there's not crazy money in it
You have to
unless you
like
know
really
what you're
grind for
doing.
the money.
So that's
Yeah,
just keeping it 100 too. Like I think I get paid fairly well. But that's still not like bank. It's not worth me like dropping everything that I'm doing just to be like, oh, photography looks cool. Let me go make some
exactly.
money. Like to me, it's not that type of industry unless you're like really,
Yeah,
really good at what you do. And I'm talking like high level, not the stuff that
yeah.
personally
Me
I
neither.
do. Like you got to be good to come for some
Yeah,
money. You know what I mean? Unless you get lucky, like I said, sometimes you get in a situation where you know some good people and your work could honestly be pretty mediocre, but you have good relationships and partnerships with people that get you paid work, but usually it's not like high school, little
yeah,
small stuff. Like you're usually shooting for brands
yeah.
of some
Just to go
sort.
off of that, it's just like photography is one of those things where you could be the best photographer in the world, be the most passionate, whatever, and not make any money if you don't know anybody. Like now in this day with social
Hmm.
media, if you don't know anybody, it's like, okay, you're not going to get any work. You take cool pictures, but how are you going to get paid
Next question. When multiple people come to you for a project, how do you know which ones to accept?
when multiple people come to me for a project?
I'm going to assume, let's just generalize it and just say how do you know which projects you want to accept and which ones you don't?
I take
That's
all
what
of
I would
them.
say. I think you'll be able to.
I take all of, yeah,
You
unless
take them
like
all?
the pay is really trash, like I'll take anything. Cause I mean, I'm trying to make some money, even if it's not all about the
Yeah,
money, we still need to
that's
make money.
fair.
Yeah,
Hey, that's fair. I guess it depends on what's
yeah,
coming to you.
exactly.
Like me personally, me and Brandon, we've been doing like our graphic design business for a while. So we got to a point where it's like we knew that certain clients
Right.
weren't for us. Um, and I don't want to articulate that in a way that could be insulting to someone. So I'm not necessarily going to say anything specific, but I feel like you have your bucket of
Yeah,
customers and clients that you want to work with. Typically, if you're doing it for income, people that aren't trying to pay you, you're gonna put them in a bucket of those are like my low
right.
level projects. People that are consistent with you, they pay on time, they're good clients and stuff like that. They're not headaches. Those are typically the projects I'll take. I personally went through a phase of taking
Yeah,
everything just because. And then you start to, depending on your workload, you start to kind of get to a point where it's like you may be doing things that you don't really enjoy. You just know
yeah,
how to do them and you make money off of them. And I think that's when you kind of get to that point where you just find
yeah,
out what works for you. At the end of the day, like if you have consistent clients who are paying all the time and you don't have any issues, take it all. But I feel like if you have people that you can kind of like, maybe I'm trying to get out of the high school scene and do more professional stuff, then maybe you kind of tailor your work to being able to attract that. It's a balance, and I think that honestly that's different for
hmm
everybody. But my biggest thing: avoid clients from hell and avoid people that don't want to pay what you're
exactly.
asking. Because the moment you accept it, you got to keep
Yeah,
accepting that low ball price, or people being late paying you all the time, and it just creates like a
yeah.
domino effect of
And that
bad
just kind of
decisions.
goes into like knowing your worth, knowing your value. Like just make sure you're getting paid
Yeah.
like the right amount. But the thing that I think about is just say yes until you can say no. Like if I'm not in a position to say no and turn down gigs, I'm gonna keep saying yes and I'm gonna take on everything. Like I've shot weddings in the past, which I
Yeah.
don't really like, so I don't do them anymore. But You just do everything,
Yeah.
grad shoots, prom shoots, um, sneakers, games, all that. Why are you making that face?
Oh, I was reading this quote.
No, yeah.
Sorry.
I was looking for which question you're
Uh,
making that face at.
no, no, no. It was like I only saw part of it. I was like, oh God, what's going on? Oh, but no. Caleb just said, what would you guys say to someone who says I can't start photography or videography because I don't have the best
You have
equipment?
a phone?
Um, I could just provide my
Yeah,
honestly. I think the reality is you have to learn the technique of whatever it is that you're doing with whatever equipment that you have. Personally, when I was working at Apple, and I don't know if anyone remembers this, but back when like I want to say maybe around like the seven, they had this shot on iPhone kind of program that they were doing and like project where people were just like submitting all this cool stuff that they shot on iPhone. And I was like, I'm gonna take this year and I'm just gonna shoot everything I can on an iPhone. I'm all my photos taken from an iPhone, all of my video, and this is before getting into basketball, but all my video on iPhone. So like actually understanding how to shoot, understanding how to edit, understanding like actual techniques and the actual craft. There's a lot of photographers who shoot on auto and not knocking you, but there's a lot of photographers that shoot on auto and don't understand how to shoot on
right.
something else. They don't know why their pictures are blurry. They don't know why, when it's dark in the gym, how their pictures are grainy, etc. You can learn that literally from a phone. And so it's like really taking your time to learn the craft and the technique. Because if you have, like, I think our first camera was a T3i,
Yeah,
a Canon Rebel T3i. Like using that and learning what you do, then once you get the good equipment, then your stuff kind of levels up the quality, but overall, like you're still good at
right.
what you do. Personally, I don't think the equipment makes the artist. I think it's you being able to know
Yeah,
what the
I
hell you're
mean,
doing.
equipment
That's
helps.
just me.
Like, equipment helps a pretty good
Yeah.
amount, but in terms of like the actual skill and like craft, you could use anything. You
Hmm.
could use a flip
Yeah.
phone and like create art. You know what I mean? Like a
Yeah.
old Motorola Razor or something. But no, I mean,
Yeah.
there's no real excuse if it's like based on equipment. If you're saying like you can't start photos or videos
Yeah.
just because like you don't have the equipment, it's just you're making an excuse for yourself. Yeah,
Yeah. You kind of like shooting yourself in the foot before even
exactly.
jumping in. Because there's a ton of people who shoot with like really
Yeah,
bad
and they're
equipment
great at it.
and like do a
Yeah,
good job. And some people who don't do a great job, and it's okay. You have to start somewhere, and I think that's the biggest thing is
yeah.
starting. So if that means I gotta jump in with my iPhone and shoot
You got to
games,
do what you got to do.
then I have to jump in and like shoot games,
Yeah,
bro. Like it just
exactly.
is
There's
what
no
it is.
excuses. At that
Um,
point, you're just making excuses not to start photography and videography. Just use your phone.
how do you determine what price to charge a person? I struggle with that. Um, I think there's a couple things that goes into it. I personally take a different approach than I feel like people do because I actually went to school for
Mm,
art. So I actually had, I think the most interesting class that I took was like business law for creatives. Um, and he just kept it 100. Like you gotta get paid your worth, So um, you kind of like you have to really identify your skill level, which sometimes is tough because that's
yeah,
subjective. You may think you're really good and you're like
yeah,
really bad. That's just reality. But whatever, it's your price, so it doesn't matter. I think you kind of figure out what your skill set is, and maybe you can ask and poll other people and find out what their prices are. And let's say, I'm asking you, and I'm asking me, and I'm asking Brandon,
right,
and we all say, it's $100 an hour, and I know I'm nowhere near the level of skill as you guys. I'm not charging 100 an hour because I
right,
can't. You know what I mean? Um, you figure that out and you figure out kind of what your worth is based on your skill. And then maybe you also have to do research on the market. What are people actually getting paid in this industry? So like, a lot of times we're like AAU stuff and we kind of talked about
right,
it before. AAU stuff, like you're not getting paid $4,000 or $5,000 for a tournament in the
yeah,
weekend. You know what I mean? Like you might get paid 500 for the weekend. You might get paid 1,000 for the weekend, depending on who you are. But you may go shoot some stuff for Nike where over the weekend you might get $5,000
Yeah.
check. You kind of have to gauge the different atmospheres and environments of the project and the scope of the work to decide, okay, typically a project here ranges around this price. This is what I'm going to set my price at.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, shoot high.
Yeah.
Don't sell yourself short. Shoot high. If they say no, you can always, you can always bargain and figure out what works for both of you. But when you sell yourself short, typically they're going to give
Yeah.
you that. So if it's like, if you really think, a high school kid asks you to come shoot a game, you say $50 and you don't feel like that's enough, that's
Right.
on you. You got to tell them, like, normally I charge $100, and they will have to stand on that if you're being consistent with your work. If you're just putting nonsense up and your work really isn't good, you're not professional, you're not on time, you're not maybe sending invoices, not communicating, you can't really back that up. So you kind of have to be professional, and then people will take you
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah.
That's just my
And
experience.
one thing I always think about is like you always want to ask more than what you'd actually be happy with. Like, let's say I want $300 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
and if I think the client has, more money in their budget, I might be like, okay, give me 450 an hour. And if
Mm-hmm.
they say no and they'll give you 300, then it's like, okay, that's what you wanted anyway. So,
Thanks. This is
yeah,
exactly
exactly. Like, all right, cool.
exactly. Exactly what I do.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
again, it
Um.
all goes back down to like how much you think your time is worth, your talent, and like how good you are, and just
Mm-hmm.
comparing that to the market and just like figuring it out. Like for me,
Mm-hmm.
when I was first charging, I didn't really look at the rest of the market. I was just kind of like, all right, I think
Mm-hmm.
$25 an hour for this one session, that's pretty good. So, I mean, I just kind of ran with that. And then
Mm-hmm.
as I figured I was getting better, and it's just
Yeah.
like, you figure that you could make way more money. It's just like, oh, you just start asking. Like, you never know until you ask these people, like, oh,
Yeah.
another thing, what's your
Yeah.
budget? I love that question. Like,
That's literally, I was
yep,
waiting on you to finish so I could say, just ask what their budget is. Like, from an individual to a brand to a school to whatever, always ask what the
yeah,
budget is, because honestly, your rate may be so low and their budget may be so
exactly.
high. I'm taking the budget.
Yeah,
Like, I might charge typically $100 an hour, but they may be like, hey, yo, we got 10 grand to give you guys for the project, and I'm
exactly. You would
taking
have
it.
lost a lot of
I'm
money if you didn't
asking
ask
what
what
they
the budget was.
exactly. And some people will be honest with you and they'll share the budget with you up front because they want you to get what you're worth. But
Yeah,
some people will not tell you, because if my budget, and that's not bad. Like, if I'm a salesperson, I'm in charge of this, and I'm in finance, whatever that role may be in that business, and my budget is 1,000, but I can get a really dope person for $200. I'm gonna get the
exactly.
really dope person for $200, because then I got now the other 800 to do so much more with. So you kind of have to ask what you're worth, and at the same time figure out what their budget
Yeah,
is
it's
too.
it's the worst though when they're like,
Um,
you ask what's their budget, and they're like, well, what's your rate? And I'm like, well, what's your budget?
kind of don't have anything. We kind of don't want to. What social media platform do you think has helped grow your business the most, and why?
Instagram for me. I mean, with Instagram being the photo sharing platform right now, it's just like people see my work. People see my work on Instagram. People share my work. So, I've been able to connect with so many people on
Mm-hmm.
here and just like talk through the DMs or whatever. But I mean, yeah, Instagram has just been the
Mm-hmm.
most beneficial. That and Twitter. I share a little bit on Twitter and just like I meet people on there.
Mm-hmm. How was your experience setting up your business on paper? Do you use any legal resources and stuff? Feel like creatives don't talk about this much.
I mean,
Um,
you're probably better versed in this than I am, just because I'm kind of just like going day by day and just figuring it out. But I mean, I have my own business,
yeah,
like I have my business license and everything. Um, so
yeah.
I mean, you could talk about that though. I'm still trying
Um,
to establish my legal stuff.
resources, Google.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Google
mean,
and
just
YouTube.
being straightforward and honest. All you got to do is Google. Like, let's say as an individual, you want to be a sole proprietor or you want to be an LLC. If you don't know what those things are, when you go into that research,
Yeah,
they'll tell you. If you say, hey, I'm trying to start a business, on Google, it's going to literally break down every type of business that there is: sole proprietor, partnership, general partnership, LLC, corporation. Like, it's going to tell you all that stuff. And then when you figure out where you fit in that, Then the next step is, okay, how do I legally on paper make
Right.
myself become this? And then they usually will give you like a lot of tools and resources. One of the websites I use is NoHo, NOHO, I believe, or Nolo. It's Nolo. And it has like a lot of books and stuff that you can get. But honestly, there's so much like legal resource out there that you can get. There's so much creative legal resource out there that you can get. This is something that personally I plan to put a little bit more on my personal account. I've kind of put like the tips out there. So for example, like people don't know that technically they own the copyright to their work unless they sign something that says otherwise. I bet, a ton of people don't know that, but all it takes for you to just Google, photography
Yeah.
copyright or, trademarking. And so it's just like, when it comes to stuff like that, personally, I don't seek out that information
Yeah.
from
All the
anybody.
information's out
I
there.
go research.
Like,
It's out
we're
there.
lucky we don't have to go
It's
to a
out
library to like pick up a book or anything. We just hop on our phones or
there. Hmm.
computers and just Google it.
Yeah, and just get that information. How did you start getting the photographs events like college or MBA? Um, I guess I'll let you answer. This is
How do
for you anyway. I've
you
been talking too
start?
much.
Oh yeah. So I mean, if you missed it, I started shooting college games because I was a team manager for the basketball team at USF. So like when it was game day and they didn't really need me, I just kind of went off to the side and started taking pictures. NBA, just kind of like networking. Were you stopping me there?
I got a solution. Side note, I have a solution. If this ends, you start the live and then I'll join from
Okay,
Hooflix.
cool. Yeah, that makes
Does that
sense.
make sense? Okay.
Yeah, NBA games, just again, like I was saying earlier, just kind of met the producers or whatever, and worked on some projects with them, or some of the players had asked me to come shoot for them. So it's really just putting all your work out there. People will eventually notice and just like ask you to work for them, just start to create with them. But I think the more you put yourself out there, the more people will notice and all that.
Who are the creators, photographers that inspire you that other people should
Um,
follow?
Oscar Castillo, yeah, Yazoo
Yazoo.
for sure.
Oscar.
Um, Vince
Oscar for sure.
Sirico, um, Squint,
Sherm.
Sherm
Sherm
for
is super
sure.
dope.
Rough Draft,
We could probably put together a
yeah,
list.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
Brandon Ruffin,
Heck yeah. Gary
um,
Gary Lynn.
Mighty Kills with Marvin King,
There's so many dope
yeah,
people, bro. Like it's
um,
endless.
Cool
Cool
Mac,
Mac. I really love Cam's work.
Devin Allen,
I mean, there's a lot of inspiration. Personally, I think it'd be dope. Like maybe if we could create a list after this, and maybe we could like share that out in the story or
yeah, for
something.
sure.
That'd be something dope we could do. On the Hoopflix account specifically, I have like this Follow Friday that we were doing for a while. I'll start
Yeah,
doing
that's
that
right.
again, but I was just trying to like show like really dope creatives and
I'm
stuff
not from
that
Daly City, bro. But
kind
go
of
ahead,
into
my bad.
me.
I'm cutting you off.
No, you're good. Do your thing. I mean, there's a ton. Personally, I think that it's really cool to, obviously Johnny the shooter, like the people in our
Yep,
circle, David,
yep.
my boy Rain Matty, like there's a ton of people like follow and support the people you really rock with.
We haven't said
Even
gradient visuals.
that's what I'm saying, Daryl. Like we can
Yeah,
keep
there's so
going
many
down the
people.
list. There's so many. Brandon, Juwan, like I
Right.
could literally do this all
Yeah.
day.
You guys can
Um,
message me too, and I'll send you like hella people. There's a
yeah.
lot of good people that I follow.
And then I think for me, the other part of it is really like getting into people who don't necessarily shoot basketball
Right.
and also rocking with them. So like one of my favorite photographers is Brandon Wolfel. And that's where I started kind of getting my teal and orange look from. And then everyone started doing it. So I haven't done it recently, but
I mean,
it's like finding,
it's just like a common color
yeah,
correcting type of thing. Just
it's
like they
some
contrast
comment
really
there.
well.
Favorite events we've ever photographed and why? Oh man,
You can go
that's tough.
first.
Damn, that's tough. I don't know, man. I don't know. McDonald's is up there, I would
Yeah.
say. Um, that's probably it for me, McDonald's.
My
Because there's
AirPods
like,
died.
I don't know. I think it may have to be McDonald's, or I'll say NBA draft. No, I'm lying.
Oh,
So
you're so
NBA
big
draft.
time for that.
So I have
You're
three
so
that
big
are
time for that.
pretty even. I would say McDonald's, NBA draft, and then I would say Steph Curry's underrated tour.
That was a good one
And
too. You're right.
the reason why, so why for McDonald's is because one, I love arena lighting. I think it was like really dope to see the players like on that kind of like national stage and be able. That was like my first big event that I believe that I shot and was able to get into. So actually
Right.
being there, I saw you there, and like
Yeah.
just seeing like your people in the building and the atmosphere and stuff. Like I actually snuck my camera into the dunk contest, and so
Really?
like my shots are way different than everyone else's shots because you guys were on the floor and I was like in that like first or second row in the stands. So like my shots are crazy. I sent them to a couple people
Yeah.
at Adidas and they're like, "Whoa, how the hell did you even do this?" I was like,
Yeah. That's how it was for
and
me the
then
first year I was there too. It was just like shooting from the stands. I mean,
yeah,
that's where it starts.
and then NBA draft was dope. Like you can't unless you're like so John Lopez shot all the portraits and all the actual shots for the players.
Yeah.
But I love doing like behind the scenes stuff. So for me to like be kind of doing my own thing behind the scenes, it was dope. So I got to go back to the press conference and like I haven't posted any of this stuff. But I
Right.
have tons of photos of like Zion and all those guys like John Morant, everybody like in the back doing their thing. I got some like stand shots too, where I'm like, where they're talking and they're on TV doing their little interview. Where I kind of shot that, so I got some really dope shots from that. And then just the Steph Curry one because I feel like a lot of times when we shoot because like we're starstruck by people and we're like, oh my god, like can't believe I'm here. Um, and that was like the first time like really getting to see like an NBA player of that caliber and his like personal interaction with people and then how he personally is. So it was like cool to just kind of like capture him in his element.
Right. Yeah. I think my favorite event I've shot is I was shooting
Yeah.
behind the
No,
scenes for what's up?
no, Kelly's talking about me sneaking his lens into McDonald's.
Oh, I didn't even know he was there.
Yeah, he was, and I snuck his lens in my bag.
Dang, sorry, bro. I'm sorry we didn't meet. Damn. I hate when
I
that
know.
happens. There's just so many
I
people
know.
there.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to favorite event. My favorite one was shooting behind the scenes of Steph's slam cover in Oakland.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah, so that was the first time I met him too, and I've shot him a little bit since then. But
Mm-hmm.
that McDonald's, just like meeting hella people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I went to McDonald's, I worked with Under Armour, I worked with
Mm-hmm.
Adidas,
Mm-hmm.
just like hella people. Finish Line, like all of that came from like me being at McDonald's. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Like
just the atmosphere again.
shooting the egos at McDonald's like on the floor and just being right there.
Yeah, that was last year. Yeah,
Like
the first
that
year
was
was
fire.
ludicrous.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
that stuff that like what I like about shooting in those environments is like I'm already a pretty like not groupie like person.
yeah,
Like I don't kind of get like my first like starstruck moment I would say probably was Kobe. But like I think the more you shoot events like that, the more you kind of get to realize that they're just normal people.
yeah.
Like and
Just
you
human
can kind
beings.
of focus you can focus on the work. And
Right,
so when you get in those spaces it's like everybody's entitled to that awe moment. You're always gonna have that. But then, you know, when you start to do that more and more, then you really get to like get in your bag. Like you
right.
really do.
But yeah, going back to them being people, it's just like they're just like us, but you know, they're a little bit more talented.
Yeah.
Like they're really good
Yeah.
basketball players or like good artists and musicians or whatever. But at the end of the day, they're just people, like just
Yeah.
human beings that we could talk to and just like socialize with. It's just
Mhm.
they seem larger than life, but you know, they're just people.
Yeah. Any recommendations on how to get a basketball photography internship? What's up, Mike? I hope you're doing well as well. Any recommend? Personally, I'm not a huge fan of internships.
Especially unpaid ones.
Unless you're like a student and you have to do it, I'm not really into it. I'm not opposed to it per se, but like for me, I can't really provide advice because I've never experienced it really outside of
Yeah,
like being in a school environment. Like I know a lot of times now, like people are putting out there that they want internships, and they want people to come work, and then it's really just them saying like, I don't want to pay for you.
Right.
So it's really tough to figure it out. I guess like for me, if I were to go into a situation where it's an internship, there would be requirements that I would ask of them to make sure that it isn't just I'm showing up and working for free kind of thing, where it's like they're actually teaching you. Because an internship, they're actually supposed to be teaching you something. Like you don't just intern for a place and like you're just bringing what skill you have and that's it. An internship is created so that you can learn. And if they can't provide you with a learning experience, then I personally wouldn't do the internship.
Right.
But that's just me.
Yeah, for me, I would just, if I was in your position, I'd just offer to do free work. Like, not necessarily as an internship, but like, let's say there's like a trainer you want to work with, offer to work with them for free. Like, that's how I got started. When I was working with Devin, one of the ways that I hit him up was like, okay, I'll shoot for you for free, and like if you let me come to a workout or something like that. I was like, I was a freshman in college, and then when I started working with Packy, same thing. I was like, oh, I'll come through the gym and get you some free content if you want. So, and that's kind of where you can start a relationship too. Is just like give value to somebody else, just like find a way to help somebody else instead of just like looking out for yourself. Like for me, when I was offering free photos, even though I wanted to break into the basketball space, it wasn't necessarily because like I wanted something. It's more so like I wanted to get some practice in and give somebody something dope. So
yeah. What camera do you use?
Yeah, I'm on a Sony A7R3.
Yeah, so I have a Sony A7R3, and I shoot with the Sony A9 as well. And then I technically have a Sony A7S2, and then we also have a Canon 80D. I don't really shoot with those anymore, but...
Yeah, I started on a Nikon point and shoot, and then...
Really?
Yeah, and then I went to a T3i, then a Nikon D3300, and then D750, and then I went to Sony.
Yeah.
But I like gear though. Like even though we're talking about how much gear doesn't really matter, I like gear. It's just it makes it a little bit more fun. Yeah.
Like the autofocus on a Sony is like what sold it for me. Great.
Yeah, exactly. And like the electronic viewfinder, like shit like that.
Your equipment kind of builds off of you. Like my equipment fits how I shoot. Like things that I want to be able to do. Why I get certain upgrades so that either one I can do it easier, or two like it just takes whatever I'm doing to another level. It's no different than like editing software. Like some people really love Final Cut, some people really love Adobe Premiere Pro. It's just really just what works for you.
It's just all preference. Like at the end of the day, going back to talking about equipment, it doesn't really matter. Like you could get heat on an iPhone, you could get heat on an A9, but you just have to be a good photographer.
So then we got lenses, and then why choosing Sony? The lenses I primarily shoot with are 70 to 200, 2.8. Everyone asks this question all the time.
All the time, every day.
Universal lens to shoot sports photography with. And then I also shoot with a 18 to 105 for my video.
Okay.
It's an f4. And then recently I purchased the 24 to 70 2.8, so I've been shooting with that. I have a 85 millimeter. I think it's a 1.8. It might be a 2.8. I had a 35 millimeter Sigma 1.4. That thing was sharp.
Yeah.
Kind of miss it. Got to replace that. And then I also have a 50 millimeter 1.4 and a 40 millimeter 1.8.
You have hella stuff. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on a.
But I don't use it all.
It's
just like I don't use it all. The only reason why I got the second camera was because I got tired of switching lenses.
Yep.
And glass is expensive. So what I'll typically do is I'll just have the 70 to 200 on my photo camera if I'm doing both, and then just have the 18 to 105 on my video camera, which I've been shooting with the A7R3 for video, and then use the A9. So, I mean, it just depends. Everybody's...
Yeah, it depends, like, how you... I guess going back to style is just, like, how you envision your photos to be. Like, I like to shoot wide shots, so I shoot with a 24 a lot, 24-70 if I need to zoom in a little bit, but mostly on 24 for, like, workouts and everything, or, like, just walking around. I'm on 24 all day.
Why Sony? I personally, I bought my Sony because of the look.
Yeah, I feel
It
it.
just looks cool,
Yeah,
and then it's lighter. It's a smaller camera.
yeah,
Um, and at the time that I started shooting, it was really kind of the only good mirrorless out. There's a ton now. Nikon has a mirrorless. Canon has one too now, right?
yeah,
And it was like the smallest camera. You think about being on the go, moving all the time,
exactly.
all over the place. It just makes it easier and it looks really good. So Sony is definitely expensive though compared to Canon. So if people are like trying to figure out what to go with, you know, like
Yeah,
Canon's really good. The colors are cool.
yeah.
Um,
It's an investment though. I mean, if you take it seriously, like you'll make your money back quick.
yeah. Oh yeah. Heck. Did we go to school
Where's
and
that
major
at?
in any classes? Personally, no. I learned nothing from photography based from school. Actually, not like I did take a photography class, but I didn't use it at all. Like it was when I was going to school for graphic design, but it didn't like move me really.
Right.
It was like I did at the time I did it just to do it. Have I learned stuff from it? Yes, but at the time it wasn't like something that I was using for a purpose. It was just because I had to do it.
Yeah. For me, I read one book.
Yeah.
Like I was
Yeah.
trying to get into photography. I read one book and
Yeah.
messed around with it.
What's your biggest difficulty for creating content for posting?
I don't want to say I necessarily even create for posting. Like
Yeah.
I create for my own fun and so that
Hmm.
people have stuff to remember whatever we're shooting by. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean so it's not really difficult. I just like to shoot. Like
Yeah.
Instagram's just like been a byproduct of or not a byproduct, but I'm just like I share on Instagram because I'm already shooting anyway. Like
Mhm.
if there was no Instagram, I feel like I'd be shooting anyway. I'm not one of
Yeah.
those people that's just like I want all the likes or followers or whatever. It's just I shoot
Shooting
because I want
like
to.
yeah. What are good ways to branch yourself out to media companies?
Damn, kind of touched on that already. Just talk to everybody in the room. You
Yeah.
know, show up to
Um,
every event that you can and just be a good person. Introduce yourself, say your name.
yeah. And I mean, media companies, because I'm sure that question came from someone that's probably in like the high school space.
Oh, okay.
Um, Media companies don't really have photographers.
They don't. It's always
Like
outsourced.
D.A.H is probably one of the only ones that'll like primarily do photo at something. Slam does it a little bit, but
Yeah.
from what I know, you kind of have to be for a specific project or something that they're like using you for specifically. Like it's kind of like a niche one-off kind of thing. It's not like a typical thing.
Yeah.
I mean, in relation to video, all media companies are really looking for shooters. Just be good and reach out. Like 9 times out of 10, if you're in a city that they're not in, just say, hey, like I love your guys' work. I want to shoot for you, whatever. And typically, I've never really seen them say no to anyone. That's good.
Yeah.
You just gotta reach out, and they'll typically just say yeah.
Yeah. Just
How
real
did
quick.
you?
Real quick. That's how I got a lot of my opportunities though. It's just like some days I would just sit on my computer and just
Mhm.
send a ton of cold emails or cold DMs or whatever and just be like, hey, love your stuff, blah blah blah. Love your work. What's up, Langston?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's what it's just like cold calling back in the day or whatever. I never had to do it, but I just kind of took that concept and just ran with it. Just send out hella emails, hella DMs or whatever and see who responds. 90% of the people aren't going to respond to you, but you might get a nice 10%, maybe even
Yeah.
2%.
Yeah. Seriously. There's like a what is it, like a 10-100 rule or 20-100 rule or something crazy where it's like you should reach out to 100 people a day. Only 20% of that, which is 20 people, will probably look at it.
Exactly.
Maybe people will reply, and like you only get 1 or 2 customers from that. So I mean, that's a lot of people to reach out to, but at the end of the day, like if you're actively reaching out to people every single day, there's no reason why you shouldn't get anything back.
It's all effort. Like, if you really
Yeah.
want it, you'll try to go after it. I mean, if you only get one response, it's still better than zero. So,
Yeah, facts. And how did you work your way up to getting into shooting NBA players?
yeah, relationships again.
Yeah.
I sound kind of boring, but that's just because that's the answer that just comes straight to my head. It's
Yeah.
just like, again, like I've grown up in the basketball space, so I know a pretty good amount of people and just like built that relationship over the years. And it's just, you know, I've been lucky enough to, you know, be in the position to like be able to shoot some of these NBA guys or NBA games or whatever. So
I don't think there's a formula. I think you are the formula. It's like you figure out what works for you, because even if I told you how I got in, that's how you're gonna get in.
Yeah, it might not work for you. Like you might have to find a different way. But the simplest way, I think, is just being nice, being a good person, and being good at what you do. So just like keep honing the craft of, you know, being a good photographer, videographer, creator, whatever. And, you know, eventually people will notice. So, you know, you just grind it out.
What event made you realize you wanted to keep doing this?
So, like, keep being a photographer? I mean, all of it. You know, just the whole reason I even got into photography is because, you know, it was my outlet aside from basketball. So, you know, the reason I'm shooting is to take care of my mental health. It helps me see the world in a positive light. So, you know, if you want me to point out an event, it's just living, I guess.
Yeah. Like for me, I think it was the first thing that we shot that was like a big event. We shot Bigfoot hoops because prior we weren't doing basketball stuff. And for me personally, like I played basketball. So for me, that was the event because it made me realize that I wanted to really get back into like what I loved.
Right.
I shoot because I love being around basketball.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
But there wasn't like one thing that was like, hey, I know this is what I got to do for the rest of my life.
It's just a culmination of everything.
Yeah. Because I may not be doing this for the rest of my life. Who inspired you to get into photography and videography? Personally, me, no one.
Yeah, me neither. It was just something I decided to pick up to do, just like with my friends or whatever. Walked around the street, took pictures.
What is some advice that you would give for people discouraged to start photography or any new career?
Discouraged to start? I mean, you never know until you try. As corny as it sounds, it's just like, you know, you never know what's actually going to happen until you go ahead and start it. Like, what happens if you start it and, you know, it becomes the best thing of your life? Or, you know, you might start it and you might fail, but, you know, you might not ever find out if you're just sitting around at home just thinking about what if you did start. So, you know, if you're not doing anything else better except sitting around wondering, just get up and go. Just go do it.
What's the favorite picture?
Favorite moment? I mean, the most recent one I can think of is just like the Oregon women's team, you know, winning the Pac-12. You know, I mean, it was like basically their last game before the whole Corona situation. That's the most recent one I can think of. What else? You can answer while I think.
I don't necessarily have one moment, but I think the experience of being able to like film and take photos of like Kobe and like the Mambas for the past like kind of year and a half. I think obviously like that's a given. In the moment, not knowing what those moments would kind of mean for us going forward. And then now the tragedy that happens is like, it gave me a sense of like, I already have a sense of purpose, but it kind of like solidified that. Like, even if it's not doing photo or video, like knowing that that stuff is like super impactful and meaningful to people. And then it kind of like solidifies the fact that I believe my work means something. And so some people, they'll get lowballed and they'll just have their work being thrown out there and then cropped out with their logos and all kind of crazy stuff. And like, it made me really realize that there's a reason why I'm super passionate about what I do in my work, because like one day, like it's going to mean something, you know what I mean? So I think for me, it's just like being able to have captured that whole experience. And like, we have like probably 95% of that content, it like comes from us. It's like really dope to see, you know, like our work kind of be like shared around. Like that's probably my favorite moment, I guess. Yeah.
And just a thought based off of that is just like, I feel one of the things that photographers and videographers give up in capturing those moments is actually being in those moments, you know, like being present, fully present. And, you know, because like we're able to sacrifice, you know, actually being there, other people can live in those moments. Like for me, if I'm seeing your pictures of Gigi and Kobe, like I never got to meet them personally, but
Yeah.
like I can kind of live in those moments based on, you know, you being
Yeah,
there.
100%. Yeah. And I think that, to me, that kind of tailors back to Kelly's question where it's like money versus passion. I think being present in those moments, you have to come at it with passion. If
Yeah.
you're there for the money, you won't pay attention to those little like idiosyncrasies and moments that people have that you feel like are even worth capturing. You know what I mean? Describe your style. What makes you you?
Man, yeah, we touched a little bit on this earlier. I'll answer your second question first. Like, what makes me me? It's me. You know, every single person is just gonna have a different perspective on life. You know, whether you know that's me or you know like a superstar athlete, they have their own perspective and I have mine. So, my own perspective just makes me, and I don't really have a particular style other than just like whatever I see.
Irv asks, "What's your favorite lens you own?"
Um, I go with the Sony 24 1.4. Just like something small and compact and just like good and low light, good quality. So
Yeah, I'm like between the 24 to 70, 2.8, and the 85. Like the 85, the bokeh looks crazy.
yeah,
So,
yeah. For me, I like shooting on prime lenses. Like if I could shoot a whole game on a prime lens, I will.
yeah. Do you change your compression for Twitter?
You know, that's probably something I should look into, but I don't. I mean, I
Yeah.
kind of post like whatever quality I have for Instagram. I throw it on Twitter, but I mean, I should look into it.
It does compress it really bad, but I don't get into that geeky stuff enough.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I haven't looked into it.
How do you see your career and your skill set evolving?
I mean, just getting better. Yeah, you know, it's really simple.
Yeah.
Like the more you work on it, you're just gonna get better naturally. So,
hmm
I mean, it's not like I see a specific style coming into play or anything like that. But if you want to talk about stuff I'll work on, it's like I want to get better at color, in terms of like for video, actually shooting video, sound design.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff I want to work on, but those are like the main things.
Do you have any like big goals
Um,
when it comes to photography?
I mean, not necessarily like huge goals, but it's like I want to have like my own photo gallery, my own photo book, make different things, but I'm not going to say too much so I don't give people ideas. But just like galleries and stuff like that, and you know, just finding ways to share the art with the world and all that. How about you?
No major goals. I mean, personally, I just take the growth and the journey, that whole process, as the goal itself. It's just like you said, kind of getting better every day, finding a new experience. I do want to get published, like in an actual like periodical or something like that. Like
Right.
I've always had the Slam magazines, but it's like really cool to see like all the homies like taking all the pictures for Slam and stuff. Like seeing, you know, Bree just get published recently was like
Yeah,
really
that's crazy.
dope. You know, when we're growing up, we don't realize how attainable that stuff is, and like how much you can reach out and touch people who are actually doing that. And then now that as we're older, like getting to see the people who shot certain things and like, you know, millions of people are gonna have this someday, and they're gonna look at it, and it's like dope. Like that's your photo. Like that's the stuff that I think is pretty powerful. So I definitely would want to be published in like an ESPN magazine, which I think they just discontinued physically or something like that. Like that would be pretty cool.
I mean, that's the goal, like in terms of just like taking great photos. You know, you want stuff that lives on and is timeless. Because I mean, you can make all this stuff for social media and everything, and that kind of goes back to the question of like if I ever feel pressured for, you know, posting content or, you know, any blocks for creating content for posting. It's just like I don't create for posting. Like you want those moments that are timeless that people are gonna actually remember and look back on and be like, damn, I could live in this moment like because of this photo. You know what I mean?
What's a goal or something that's on your bucket list that you have yet to check off, which I guess you kind of touched on a little bit, but not really?
Yeah. I mean, one brand or company that I haven't really tried to work with, Nike. I mean,
Mhm.
I've tried to work with every single company I've worked with, like
Yeah.
intentionally, but I haven't intentionally tried to work with Nike. So that's probably going to be
Mhm.
my next thing, and try to figure out like
Mhm.
how I can create something with them. But
Yeah.
I mean, Nike, Red Bull,
Mhm.
um, Golden Voice, who does like music festivals and stuff like that. I'm trying to get into all that. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Do you have 5 to 10 year goals? You did kind of say not really.
I try to take it
You do, but you keep them to yourself.
in a way. In a way, I mean, I kind of keep them to myself because they're vague. Like if I tell you guys them, it's not really gonna help because
Yeah.
all of my goals are kind of oriented towards just being better, like being a better person, being better physically, spiritually, mentally, and everything just kind of leads to the next thing that I want to do. Like today, I might say I want to work with Nike, and it'll happen in a couple weeks or a couple months just because of my smaller goals that led to that big goal, if that makes
Right.
sense.
What's your approach to pulling clients?
Not looking at them as clients, looking at them as
Yeah.
people. Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, going back to money, you want to make as much money as you can doing the thing you love, but
Mhm.
for me, you can't really take money with you like
Yeah.
when you die. So I just try to keep the relationships and have make people feel good about themselves and just make people feel good with your friendship or relationship, because at the end of the day, they're gonna remember by how you make them feel. So mhm.
Do you have like a specific approach outside of like, let's say it's a clean slate, someone you don't have a relationship with,
Mhm.
something that you're trying to do? Is there anything specific that you do that you feel like other people can do too? Like when trying to get
What do you mean?
like for
Repeat that one more time.
example, I know people that will literally just write down a bunch of businesses or write
Mhm.
down a bunch of people that they want to work with, and then they'll, you know, do email content and they'll send them an email and they'll just email blast all these people. They'll go look up their email addresses and then boom, almost like a newsletter, but they'll
Right.
just send that out. Like that's one example, but I'm not saying I do that. I don't.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Just like something specific that people like who really struggle with that or
Yeah.
don't.
To get a new client, basically, though, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, going back to what we were talking about earlier, I send a lot of cold emails, and I'd tell people I'd tell these companies or people or whatever, just like,
Mm-hmm.
I really like your product or whatever, and then I tell them like how I can add value to them, like whether that's storytelling through their product or
Yeah.
just giving them some good product shots. It's just like telling them how you
Mm-hmm.
can be of benefit to them, not necessarily like, hey, I can add you to my portfolio and resume, but it's more so like I'm going to add to you instead of you adding to me.
Yeah. Do you think that it's important to have a website?
I don't know. I have one because I like to direct people somewhere where they can see a bunch of my work, but
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of hard to say because like Instagram, you could just give somebody your Instagram and they'll see a bunch of work. But
Yeah. And a lot of your bigger projects, you have relationships with those people already for the most part, or you've gotten in different ways to not need that.
send you the website.
Yeah.
In a sense, I mean, I like to do most of my work in person.
Uh-huh.
But I think the website's a good resource to have just so they
Yeah.
can actually see it right away instead of like, I guess, scrolling through Instagram. They could just click your website, see what you're all about, and,
Yeah.
learn about you in 2 seconds.
Yeah. I I personally think it's important, um, especially for people that are not one dimensional.
hmm
Like if you go to my website right now, there's probably going to be a crazy amount of stuff that you didn't know that we did.
Yeah, you have hella stuff on there.
Learn about me, projects, clients, etc. that don't belong on Instagram, or because like my Instagram is made for a specific niche.
Right.
Everything's not going to be on there. So I think it's important too. It's like it's a second portfolio.
Exactly.
Like it lets people be able to take you serious. And I've been in spaces where like big people are gonna potentially book and
Yeah.
like they're gonna ask for that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Unless you're pretty much vouched for by somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you're walking into a room saying this is who I am, this is what I do, Instagram's not gonna be enough.
Yeah. I feel that. And it's
Yeah.
just like, it'll help you more than it's going to hurt you. So might as well make one,
Might as well, yeah.
Yeah, and you guys have all the time in the world to make it right now, so just like go make it.
Yeah.
Oh, appreciate you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course, man. We want to do this more and support one another as much as we can. There's no space really like this for us. There's a lot of communities like that are out there for different photography, I guess areas of photography. There's a ton of like street photography, landscape photography, portrait photography, all these crazy communities. Like we don't really have a basketball community where we can come and just reach out and talk to each other and support one another and like create business opportunities off of one another.
Exactly. Like, if you guys have any questions, feel free to send me a message. I try to answer as many as I can. Like even to Michael Hicks here, we talked about like shooting NBA games, and I gave him some tips, and he was able to actually shoot like his first couple NBA games before the season was stopped. So, I'll try to help as best as I can and all that. So feel free to shoot me any messages or whatever.
I think the only other thing that I would provide for people is that even though you have people you can ask a ton of questions to, like go and seek out answers and try to be proactive in finding your own information. Because, a lot of these questions we can just answer, but some of them it's like you can almost research, like the what's the most common lens to use for shooting sports?
Yeah,
like
easy
questions
stuff.
can be asked by literally typing it in Google. And I think some people over time they get to a place where like they don't want to give you all the answers. They want you to be resourceful, and I'm that type of person because I was taught that way. I was like led in a direction, and it was like I want to see if you can come out with an answer on your own. And that's something too, like maybe that I've learned from Apple. I guess like Apple people kind of have that same mentality. It's like it's kind of like a free for all. So you want to be able to be independent enough to be able to seek out your own answers. And you may make mistakes, you may do the wrong thing, but at least like you're trying to get that information. And I feel like a lot of people come into this lane in this space and they want to take the shortcut. Like they don't want your journey, they want your results. They want your success, they want where you are. And sometimes it is perceived success. Just because somebody has 50,000 followers on Instagram does not mean that they are doing anything really successful other than just that they're popular on Instagram.
Yeah, social media is a highlight reel.
It really is a highlight reel. Because a lot of the people that like really impact me personally don't have a crazy following. Like, they don't at all. So I know right now this is something that's huge. It's like Instagram, but like just understand that like it's subjective. It's super subjective. What are you guys doing during this time of improving questions? Are you guys trying to learn something new? I've dabbled in a little bit of motion graphics, just for the sake of like not losing my edge. But to be honest, I was getting to a point of burnout. So me personally, I haven't been doing that. There's a reason why the world shut down after all this stuff has been happening. And I'm taking a break. So
much deserved.
Cool, but I'm not putting any pressure on myself. Like people are like, yeah, you better use all this time to learn all you can. And like, if you can, cool. If you don't, cool. Like,
whatever.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, the world's on pause anyway. I mean,
man.
Yeah, for me personally, I try to learn like at least a couple hours a day, whether that's like reading a book or going on YouTube. But I haven't really been putting pressure on myself either. Been playing a lot of Warzone, so Call of Duty, just been on that for hours a day. So I've been taking some time to relax. Like we're always in go. It's just like might as well take the time to relax a little bit and breathe.
Yeah, like all the time that we had all been asking for and we couldn't get because we're bouncing event to event or trying to do this. Like that time is now here. So just take that time. Like for me, the time that I've wanted was all personal time. It wasn't really to do anything else other than personal time and getting like organized.
Yeah.
Coming home weekend to weekend and not even being able to unpack a bag is like a horrible feeling.
Right.
It's fun when you're shooting, but when you get home and you look at that bag that you haven't touched, you're just like, but then I gotta go again tomorrow.
Facts.
Yeah, so.
Yes.
Before I got my first camera, I DM Janine and camera question. Does that help me become independent? Actually, learn how to teach myself. Yeah, I did that intentionally. I typically don't answer that question.
Nice.
Never asked anybody that, so that's just how I am. And it's not to be rude or dismissive or anything like that. It's just to challenge you to want to know more. If we have a personal relationship, like where you're in person talking to me, then I approach things different. But like the social media questions that like are blatantly like, I want to see if you can go find this answer, I'll like challenge people without saying anything. Or I'll be kind of vague with my response sometimes just to see if they'll go do the work until I learn who they are. Like some people ask a ton of questions and I'll answer every question. Yeah. But it's because now I've learned like who you are and what you're going to do with that.
Yeah, some people are just lazy.
I did the same thing to Freddie, and then he hit me up and was like, thank you. And now we talk all the time and I tell him everything.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, because you'll learn just some people are just like too lazy to actually search for the answer. Mm-hmm. So I get why you do that.
Yeah. And not even like, I try to assume positive intent and not even think that it's lazy.
Oh, you're using Apple terms.
Yeah, because it's real. Like I can't just put someone in a box and be like, oh, you're being too lazy to search for that answer. You might just never have been trained to do that.
Right.
Like, you know, like if you ask me something and I give you the answer every single time, that's just a habit.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just what you're used to. And if I don't challenge you to go do something different, then you're always going to like hold my hand. And like I hated starting new jobs, and I had already figured out the end of the orientation, and we're just waiting on these people who are like standing there waiting to be told what to do next. Like it's always super uncomfortable. So I try to like, if I can train people without them knowing like how to seek an answer, then I'll personally do that.
Right.
But yeah, this was dope. I think we covered a lot of stuff. People asked a lot of questions and were like super engaging.
Yeah, it's deeper than photography and basketball and all that. You know, there's actually life lessons to learn from each thing, and you know, just try to help everybody as much as we can.
Yeah, if there's anyone too that people want to hear from, definitely DM us. You can DM me personally. We'll collaborate on a lot of stuff, and we'll try to get these people out so they can have conversations too. So,
for sure.
Appreciate you, brother.
I'll talk to you in a bit. Appreciate you guys.
See you guys.